Have you ever moved or traveled to another country and suddenly realized that even the smallest things are completely different? Not only the language, not only the food, but I'm talking about things even inside of homes and apartments. Because after living in Australia for 7 years, I realized that Australian homes work slightly differently compared to what I'm used to in Estonia. And honestly, some things made absolutely no sense to me at first. But eventually, some things I ended up loving, and some things I wish we had in Europe as well. So today, I'm going to show you the things about Australian homes that surprised me as an European. These are just things that I noticed and from my own experience, but they might not be universal in all over Australia. I'm not saying that. And not in every home, but they are more common than in Europe, for example. So the first thing is the switches on power outlets. The very first thing that confused me in Australia was the power outlets because every socket has its own little switch. And at first I actually couldn't understand why. Like, why do they have the switches? Because it seemed like it makes it more complicated than it has to be. And at the start, I often put my phone to charge only to realize after a while that I actually didn't charge it at all because I didn't turn on the switch. I completely forgot it a lot of the times. In Estonia, and I think in most parts of Europe, or as far as I've traveled, you simply plug something in and that's it. There's no extra switch for it. But after some time in Australia, I actually started to love it. If you're leaving home, you can switch everything off without unplugging it, and it also makes you feel like you're saving electricity, even if the difference isn't huge. But yeah, now that I'm back home in Estonia, I actually miss having those switches. It was actually quite convenient. Sometimes it's funny how the things that seem so strange at first eventually become normal and you might start to prefer them to the way you were used to before, right? Another thing that surprised me was the carpets at homes. In many Australian homes, especially houses or older apartments, although I also had a carpet in a newer building in apartment, the bedrooms and sometimes even the hallways can have carpets on the floor. And as someone from Estonia, that felt really strange. Back home, most apartments and homes only have like wooden floors or laminate, but rarely carpet. I don't think that's very common. Carpet is definitely not the standard here or a choice that people usually do. I don't think I've seen a home with a carpet in Estonia, actually. So, of course, at first it seemed a bit weird, but then winter arrived and I suddenly understood why it's good, why it's so comfortable, and why I actually kind of love it. Because stepping out of bed into a warm carpet instead of an ice cold floor felt kind of amazing. And it actually did make the room feel a little bit more cozy and a bit more comfortable, a bit softer. Of course, there are few downsides to it, I guess. If you spill something, cleaning isn't exactly fun. And I'm not sure how good it is with pets. Just more cleaning, I guess. But honestly, after living with it for years, I started to understand why it's actually a good thing at home because it really, really was comfortable. The ensuite bathrooms. Ensuite? Ensuite? How do you pronounce that? But this is something I noticed, especially in bigger apartments. If it's like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, the master bedroom often has its own bathroom attached to it. So you can have your own shower and toilet, and there's also one more toilet slash bathroom, or they can also be separate somewhere in the hallway or just somewhere in the apartment as well. And honestly, I think it's incredibly practical, especially if you're sharing an apartment with roommates or you want to rent out your other room. Everyone gets a bit more privacy, and I actually think it's kind of a luxury thing. In Estonia, it is much less common, especially having a bathroom right in the bedroom. I actually don't think I've seen it in Estonia either. Most apartments simply just have one bathroom, or if it's a house, you might have more, but usually it's still not in the bedroom. It's still just a separate room. So 2 bathrooms in somewhere in the apartment, but not in a bedroom. Fire alarms. Australian fire alarms are a little bit terrifying, and I think it's more common in the newer buildings, in newer apartment buildings. I'm not sure about the old apartment buildings, if they have it too or not. But in many newer buildings, there's a, I guess, central fire alarm system connected to the entire building. So when it goes off, everyone hears it and kind of makes a good sound as well. So everyone has to leave the building if the fire alarm goes off and wait outside while firefighters check what's happening. I have been standing outside with my bathrobe like in 2 a.m. in the morning waiting for the fire department. Evacuate now. Evacuate as directed. Evacuate as directed. And it actually happened in different apartment buildings while I lived there. Not only just one, but yeah, it's a different system, I guess. Back in Estonia, it's different. Most apartments, even newer ones, simply have their own smoke detectors inside the apartment, just the one, and it's not a big whole apartment building system. But I guess it's also a good thing. If something happens, you really do hear it. But yeah, I don't know if it's common anywhere else, or maybe in America or UK. Let me know, I would love to know. But it was, yeah, a bit different for me, at least. Stickers on the appliances. For some reason, Australians often leave the stickers on their appliances. I am talking about the energy stickers on the fridges, on washing machines, the dryers, on microwave, in whatever machine, but I noticed this in so many apartments. Meanwhile, in Estonia, removing the stickers is almost the first thing we do when we buy something new to home. But yeah, while living there, it was kind of a normal thing, like you don't even really notice it. So let me know, do you have the stickers on your appliances? Rental apartments often come completely empty. This was probably the thing I wished you would have more of apartments fully furnished. But it was actually kind of hard to find a fully furnished apartment. When you rent an apartment in Australia, especially through an agency, it often comes completely empty. And I mean completely empty. Sometimes there's no fridge, sometimes there's no washing machine. One time I only had a dryer in the apartment, like, yes, full kitchen and the dryer, but I think washing machine should have like the priority over dryer, but I don't know. So yeah, and furnished apartments can be surprisingly difficult to find. In Estonia, it's almost the opposite. Most rental apartments already include everything. Usually you can just move in with your clothes and personal things, and that's just that, basically. But in Australia, moving can be quite a huge thing. Like, you have to buy appliances, furniture, organize, transportation if you want to move from your old place to a new place, or sometimes even sell everything again when you move out because some things might not match to your new apartment or they might not fit. So yeah, but I think you can find furnished places when you rent from someone for shorter periods of time, or if you rent a room, then it's probably easier. But when I was looking for apartments, it was almost impossible to find a furnished place. No radiators. In Estonia, almost every apartment or house has radiators. That's the most common thing that we use for heating for wintertime when it's minus 20 outside. And that's what keeps us warm. And some homes do have AC as well, but it's definitely not as common because I think it's more expensive during wintertime. In Australia, most homes have reverse cycle air conditioning, which can both cool and heat the house. And I think there are also like gas heating or portable electric heaters that people use, but radiators are not that common, if at all. Let me know. But yeah, I think it is more of European thing, at least northern parts. Granny flats. I love that name. Who came up with the name? But I had never heard of a name like that before coming to Australia. Like, yes, we do have some like backyard small houses, but it's more to just storage stuff, or maybe it's a small pool house or a small office, but it's definitely not as common. And if you have never heard of it, a granny flat is basically a small second home or an apartment, you can say, built in the backyard or attached to the main house. It can have its own bedroom, bathroom, kitchen and living room, and with its own entrance. Not everyone, of course, has them, but I love the idea. Some rent them out to earn a bit more extra income. Others use them as a guest house or home offices. I actually rented a place like that once, and it was so cute. It's like a second mini house on your backyard. So yeah, these are some of the things that surprised me most after living in Australia. Of course, Australia is huge and things can be very different depending on the city, the state, whether you live in a house or an apartment, or whether the building is old or a brand new one. But these are just the things that stood out to me after living in quite a few different places and coming from Europe. I want to hear your thoughts as well. Let me know, what did I miss? What do Australian homes have that might not be as common somewhere else? Or if you've moved abroad anywhere else in the world, let me know in the comments what shocked you most about the homes there. I would love to know what you think is weird or different in other parts of the world. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.